Usually when I talk about my R&B divas in this format, what I usually would do is that I, of course, just have a picture of the R&B diva, and I just go into my complete dialogue or my commentary about them. But for whatever reason, this time around, I just wanted to be right here in front of the camera. Usually, I'm probably tired and I'm feeling drained and I just want to sit down and relax and just talk, and kind of do whatever I'm doing and talk at the same time. But no, I want to talk with you guys right now, face to face with my R&B diva up here, Dawn Robinson, as you guys should know, especially you 80s babies. And I say 80s because then you should have known of En Vogue in the 90s when they came out around April or March of 1990. And of course became the mega group En Vogue, the Funky Divas of Soul, En Vogue with their 1992 album Funky Divas, which most people say is the album that put them on the map. Funky Divas that had the singles My Lovin' You're Never Gonna Get It, Giving Him Something He Can Feel, Free Your Mind, Give It Up, Turn It Loose. And it looks like there were a couple of other singles also released off that album as well. But today we're talking about Dawn Robinson. That's right. I've covered Terry Ellis. I've covered Maxine. I recently did a video on Cindy Herron. And now that I think about it, I've also talked about Rona Bennett. Who knows? Maybe I'll get around to talking about Amanda Cole. And Amanda Cole was in the group for maybe about a year or two, somewhere during the early 2000s, maybe like 2001, 2002, 2003, somewhere up in there. Now, what I'm going to try to do is stay focused with Dawn Robinson and not talk about the other ladies of En Vogue, but talk about Dawn Robinson. And the way in which I'm going to talk about Dawn Robinson is pretty much the same way that I talked about Maxine when it came to the Born to Sing album. That was a Platinum Plus album that had the hit singles Hold On, Lies, You Don't Have to Worry, as well as Don't Go. 3 number one R&B songs on that album. Don't Go went to number 3 on the R&B charts, and Hold On went to number 2 on the pop charts, while You Don't Have to Worry and Lies hovered around the top 40 on the pop charts. So, not bad for your first time coming out. When I think about Dawn Robinson, though, at this moment in time in En Vogue, I still have to say that I'm not going to say that Dawn Robinson was an afterthought. I won't say that at all. But what I will say is that I kind of noticed when it came to Dawn and Maxine, it looks as if their positioning in the group, somehow or another, they had them positioned in such a way that you just didn't focus on them. Now that I think about it, I don't know what that's all about. Some people have speculated that it wasn't anything intentional, but it was probably the way the ladies, their height. And if you can go back and look at any of En Vogue's pictures, and any time that the ladies are performing live, these ladies are definitely placed in a particular angle. It is what it is. And even when Dawn came out and she co-led the song Lies, at the same time, when we think about Lies and Dawn Robinson's vocals on it, I still have to say, and you have to kind of be mindful of the things that you say about Dawn Robinson, okay? But I will say this, I'm not going to say that she was not talented. That's not what I want to say. I don't want to say that she didn't have it, but it was more of an afterthought. Even when she was leading Lies, my focus still, for whatever reason, was on Terry and Cindy in the group. And I think it's still because in my head, for whatever reason, during the time they released Born to Sing, Terry and Cindy looked like to me that they were the leaders of the group. And it could be, again, Terry and Cindy coming out with Hold On. It was such a big hit. I'm here to tell you, Terry showed up when she sang the a cappella part of Hold On. She showed up and she showed out. And the same thing goes with Cindy. When Cindy showed up on Hold On, she showed up and showed out. And I just didn't get that it from Dawn, and I didn't get that it from Maxine. They just didn't show up and show out for whatever reason when it came to the Born to Sing album. I know that that's going to sound offensive, probably even to them if they hear this, or any of their people hear this, or any of the diehard fans such as myself hears this, but it's just the way that it was positioned in the group. But songs such as Waiting on You, Dawn Robinson's vocals were very strong. Waiting on You definitely was my favorite song on the Hold On album, on the Born to Sing album. Waiting on You was my favorite song, along with Just Can't Stay Away. I really truly think vocally on that record, Terry and Dawn definitely had some very strong vocals on their songs that they led by themselves. So good job to them. But again, nothing about them, Dawn to me stood out. I didn't pay Dawn much attention at all when the Born to Sing album was out. It wasn't until the Funky Divas album when I went like, wow, okay, look at Dawn. Dawn came out and Dawn was very spicy, sultry, seductive, sensual. Those vocals definitely were tight. I mean, she showed up. I mean, what you thought she didn't have when it came to the Born to Sing album, let's just say, such as myself, you didn't question it at all. And there's something to me about the Funky Divas album that made me think of Dawn being the superstar. It is what it is. I think that she definitely stood out from all of the ladies in Vogue when it happened because, again, I don't know if Tommy and Denny, Thomas McEnroe and Denzel Foster, the producers of In Vogue, the founders of the group, as well as the producers of the group, I don't know if it was the material that they gave Dawn at this moment in time was just some very strong material, and they gave Dawn the freedom to be as free as she possibly could vocally, or if Dawn just really and truly liked the music that she was singing. But what I got from Terry and Cindy on Born to Sing, that energy, that excitement, out and up front, I got it from Dawn on the Funky Divas album, especially when they released Giving Him Something He Could Feel. All eyes were definitely on Dawn. And now that I'm thinking about this, and I tell you again, this stuff is all in the top of my head, so sometimes I'm thinking about things for the very first time. Now that I think about it, when we think about the Hold On dresses, and I think about the My Loving You're Never Gonna Get It dresses, and when I think about the Giving Him Something He Can Feel dresses, if you look at Max and Dawn, they are definitely placed in such a way that they are out front. It's like they definitely have the it factor. And the same thing with Dawn with the Giving Him Something He Can Feel video. Now that I think about it, all eyes were on Dawn. She was definitely getting her opportunity to shine. And once she had it, and the combination of the right image, the combination of the right song, all eyes were on her. Maybe it was just that we were now forced to pay attention to her. And we did, at least I did. A lot of people did. Even Arsenio Hall paid a lot of attention to her as well. People such as not Dawn Robinson, but Donnie Simpson, Ed Gordon. I remember being glued into the television set when these ladies was on those shows, and to see how Donnie Simpson said that the ladies of En Vogue just definitely would turn a place out and have guys on the rafters and whatever in the studios just showing up like the ladies of En Vogue. They're here. The same thing with Arsenio Hall saying, Dawn, when you leave the show, forget about what you wore during the show. When you leave the show is when you look your best. So is definitely what it is on that. So we definitely appreciate it. And even if the ladies of En Vogue dress seductively, the thing that I like most about them is that they, at the end of the day, they definitely still represented they were ladies. They were not the other word, if you understand what I'm saying. And I definitely appreciated that about them, which to me made me always think, do the clothes make the man, or do the man make the clothes? And at this moment in time, I still have to say the man makes the clothes. The ladies made the clothes. Like, it's all about, you can have one lady wearing a particular item and you respect her at the end of the day. And then you have another lady who wears that particular item, and you look at her and it's the way she carries herself, and you don't take her seriously at all. You're saying other things. So at the end of the day, you can still look good and you can still be, respected. And that's the thing that I always appreciated about the ladies of En Vogue. Whenever I was around, guys, and they were watching me watch En Vogue, the thing that I always saw about them, at least from the guys that I was around, is that they never said anything disrespectful about the ladies at all. It was always about how good they looked. Like, the ladies of En Vogue, just they were so gorgeous, so well put together. They weren't over the top, and they wasn't too generic. They was pretty much right in the middle. And even though these ladies had the stigma of being unapproachable, they definitely didn't look like they were unapproachable. And to me, what I like to think about it is that maybe some people was calling them unapproachable because they had other intentions in mind. And probably when they found out it wasn't happening, that's when they probably became, unapproachable to people. So it is what it is. But definitely Free Your Mind was definitely another song Dawn Robinson co-led with the other members of En Vogue. Free Your Mind was the song that all the ladies shared vocals together, or shared lead vocals together. And again, Dawn Robinson definitely shined on that one. It was almost as if rock, and I have to say that even today with the passing of Tina Turner, I definitely wanted to get more rock and roll out of these ladies. And again, I don't know why they did not go down that path. The ladies of En Vogue could have gone on to sing a lot of music, different genres of music. And that's the thing that I like most about the Funky Divas album. It was, I like to call it in-house, in reggae, in rock, in-house, in R&B. The ladies of En Vogue definitely tackled a whole lot of elements, genres, of music for the Funky Divas album. And sometimes when I listen to the Funky Divas album now, I kind of look at it like, okay, I get it, So some of the songs were definitely of the time, but I promise you, when I purchased the Funky Divas album, I definitely had that. I had my speakers would disconnect from the radio, and I placed those speakers in the window, and I blasted the Funky Divas album, throughout my neighborhood. And so that Funky Divas album was definitely an album that a lot of people purchased. And I'd like to think that it was definitely because of something that Dawn had. I still can't put my finger on it, but it's definitely still something that shows up even after, she leaves the ladies of En Vogue, or in her, case. A lot of people say she got kicked out. Some people say, she left. Dawn definitely says that, she was given an offer that she had to refuse. It wasn't an offer that she couldn't refuse. It was an offer that she definitely had to refuse and say, sorry, I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm out the door. Ladies, it is what it is. I have moved on. And whatever that spark was, that fire, that, excuse me, all of those things that come together, for an artist, Dawn Robinson definitely had that. So it was definitely disappointing to see that it wasn't there anymore. I still say today, and I will continue to say it, Dawn and Max, as well as the song Free Your Mind, is what made the Funky Divas album such a success. Now, some people probably will find what I'm about to say offensive, but I don't mean it to be offensive. It's just the way I see it. And if you watched En Vogue, you probably can go back and look at old videos and pick up on what I'm about to say. But if you go back and you watch old performances or see, the original four together, then you will probably see what I am talking about. Terry and Cindy comes off very refined. They have no rough edges about themselves. They're very clean cut. They're definitely in the pocket. It's almost like they're professional in that they show up to do the job, and they are definitely synchronized, syncopated, choreographic, symphonic. That's how I describe En Vogue all the time. That's kind of like what you get when you get Terry and Cindy. But with Dawn and Maxine, you get they're very playful with it. They're not too much concerned about being in the pocket. To me, it's almost like I look good and I sound good. I don't have to stay in my lane. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, all this other stuff doesn't matter to me. I'm not saying it doesn't, because the ladies of En Vogue altogether definitely understood the assignment. They definitely did, and they know what it takes. They definitely knows what it takes to set themselves apart from all the other, divas in a girl group. They definitely know that. But again, when it comes to them together, Dawn and Maxine definitely are the ones who they're not so cut, if you will. They have their rough edges, and it worked. They would definitely be the ones who would not be in sync all the time. And you would see it and go, oh, that was a mistake. But then it's something about it when it happens. It's almost like when it happens, they're so quick in the correction of it. It's kind of like, ooh, it happened, and then they're back in sync with it, as if almost what they did was kind of intentional. I don't know. It mesmerizes me even to this day to see that happen with the ladies of En Vogue when it comes to Terry, and Max. I know I try to keep this focus only on Dawn, and we're going to talk only on Dawn for a second. I guess I just have to talk about this right now because I've seen performances with the ladies of En Vogue, and let's talk about Max just real quick. You can see Max. I mean, she would definitely shoot out from the other girls. Like she would, it was more like she would take off, and then before you know it, she'll run back just as fast as she took off away from them. She would come right back into it, and I mean, she would be on. I mean, she would be on it. Like you, I'm sitting there like, did you guys see Maxine do that? Like, you know, you want to say, Max, you messed up. And it's like when she comes back in it, she's right back in it, and she is more sexier than ever. And that's what I love so much about these ladies. You know, I like their carefree attitude when it comes to it. And it's definitely, I promise you, it's definitely missing in En Vogue right now today. It's missing that part of it. It's definitely needed. There's something about that made the whole. And another thing that I like to compliment Terry and Cindy about when it comes to En Vogue doing the Funky Divas album, they were so in the pocket. And you have to realize that Terry and Cindy were out front first. You know, and I'm here to tell you, Cindy was so poised and she moved so elegantly. She was so in alignment. Like, oh my gosh, like to think about it, I just get so overwhelmed. And at the same time, just relaxed at the same time, talking about it because it was something about their movement. It was almost like they went to the ladies of En Vogue were like beauty pageant contestants, you know, definitely. And I know most people say, well, Cindy, she was in beauty pageants. That's true. But at the end of the day, the other ladies were not, in that lane. But it definitely showed up. And again, they were more polished and poised than the Supremes. I have to really and truly give it to them. To me, it was like En Vogue was a mixture of the Supremes and the Pointer Sisters. But at the same time, they were just as raw as the Mary Jane girls in Vanity. You got all of that wrapped up in one. And I think you definitely got that Vanity 6 Mary Jane girls out of them when you saw they came out with the Funky Divas album. And definitely when you get on the Funky Divas album and Dawn rapped in Lies, then Dawn was definitely rapping, on the song on the Funky Divas album, It Ain't Over Till the Fat Lady Sings. And that was a song on the album, excuse me, I apologize, you guys, that I played just as loudly as the other songs on the album. Like I took that song, seriously. Even the rap, I can say it right now. Here's a flow in En Vogue hip hop intro. Time to rap, talk about when it's time to rap, talk about the info pertaining to. Oh, see, I can't remember, but you get it. Like I was there. I was listening to it. I guess I should have, tried to read up on it if I was going to talk about it. But anyway, you still took that song seriously on the album. And I'm not going to say you took her seriously as a rapper, but at the same time, you knew that she could do it. Now that I think about it, see, you never know where you're going to go. She could be like the Left Eye of En Vogue. When I always say, En Vogue came out first, and then it was TLC. I think En Vogue came out with the Funky Divas album, right? Then TLC comes out with Ooh on the TLC tip, and there you have the rapper. But Dawn, for those who are out there, you can definitely say Dawn was rapping on with Lies, even though Debbie T is the rapper on the song on the album, but Dawn definitely took that up. Excuse me, you guys. During, their performances, Dawn was the one who would do the rapping. So again, to say that these ladies did not even influence TLC, some people probably say, oh, you stretching a little bit, but Dawn definitely was rapping. So it worked. There are some elements of TLC that might not be a cappella, but they definitely have a rapper in the group. And Dawn definitely you can easily say is the rapper in the group. That's why I say at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, all over the world, you can say whatever you want to say about who is your favorite a girl group, and you can have it. But I promise you, the blueprint as of 1990, the blueprint for having an established female group, I don't care what color they were, I don't care what country they came from, you followed the En Vogue format or the formula if you wanted success. And all of the other girl groups out there, if in fact they were successful, more successful than En Vogue, it was because they created a lane for themselves. They did not, I repeat, they did not try to get in that lane with En Vogue. They did not line up with those ladies. They knew if they lined up with those ladies, their career would be almost slim to none, okay? Because there's just no one out there that could compete. And I think it was because Tommy and Denny, what I like about Tommy and Denny as musicians is that they understood what they wanted, and they understood these ladies' voices and how to blend all of that together. So again, my hats off to those guys, because it's because of them that I was glued into the television set, enjoying, music that was coming from these ladies. Definitely. One more thing that I'm going to say about En Vogue that I also noticed, I don't know if anyone else has picked up on this, but what I noticed is that En Vogue is the group, unfortunately, and this might be En Vogue's downfall. Or their kryptonite, if you will. And that is, for whatever reason, En Vogue is a group you have to hear and you have to see. All right? You have to hear them and you have to see them. If one of those two elements is not there, unfortunately, En Vogue is running all on a half tank, is what it is. Not necessarily they're running on empty, but they're definitely running on a half tank. And I'm going to give you a prime example of this. I remember when the ladies of En Vogue came out with their album, excuse me, Dawn, we're definitely going to talk about you. I remember when the ladies of En Vogue came out with their Electric Cafe album. It was finally coming out. And I was definitely a part of a particular fan page. And I remember making a comment saying, we need an En Vogue video. And I was very adamant about it. I was very happy when they came out with the video for Rocket, all right? And first of all, we just needed that fix. But secondly, once they got that video out and we heard the song and we saw the video, it worked. I think that's another reason why the song was as successful as it was during that particular time, is because we saw these ladies and we saw their video. For whatever reason, you have to make the connection with that. If we don't see them and we only hear them, for whatever reason, it's almost like, oh, okay. But then you see them, you're like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. You got my, okay. And I don't know what that is. I don't know why. I think about songs after, songs that En Vogue released that were singles but without videos. Looked like they didn't do too well. And that was that's one of their downfalls as a whole. You just, like I said, you have to see them. All right, so we're in the 30-minute mark, and now let's see if we can get a lot of Dawn Robinson in here. I'll definitely apologize about that. So, as I said, Dawn Robinson, she is definitely, you know, the one out front. She definitely talked during interviews, but she showed up a lot. She talked a lot. And I definitely got to know a lot about her just in seeing her. And one of the things that I got from her is that she was very confident in herself to me, you know, very much so. And maybe it was because at this moment in time, she got to show who she was and she came out up front. So now that I think about it, she probably definitely is the left eye, you know, of the group, because when Dawn Robinson showed up, when I think about her performances with even giving him something he can feel when she will perform that song, you know, live, as I think about it now, I mean, she is definitely diva. Oh, she is diva. She is definitely a diva in that dress. You know, it's definitely there. You know, she is definitely working it. She's giving it. She has the attitude with it. There's something about that fucking Divas album. That album is definitely attitude. They are definitely giving you a whole lot of attitude in that album, and I love it. But for whatever reason, at this moment in time, even with the success of En Vogue, Dawn Robinson has now said she has been very adamant, sounds like from day one, about some of the things that were going on in the En Vogue camp. And that will definitely be money. I remember, and I think, y'all know I got my En Vogue albums over there too. But I remember reading the Born to Sing album cover, and I think the credits, I think it was Tommy and Denny basically saying, to you knuckleheads, and I think the knuckleheads would be the ladies of En Vogue, basically telling them the importance about staying together as a group, and that, you know, the money thing probably won't happen right away, but it will happen eventually, you know, which lets me know that I can't necessarily say from the very beginning that Tommy and Denny took advantage of these ladies financially. I can't say that. And the only reason why I'm talking about Tommy and Denny in this version of En Vogue's Dawn Robinson's video is because this is pretty much now what you get about Dawn. Dawn has been adamant about her relationships with the producers, her relationships with the ladies, and her stance on certain things that were happening in the group. I don't necessarily think that Tommy and Denny took advantage of these ladies based off what I've only read about, you know, in the album covers, and that was the fact that they were saying the money would eventually happen. The ladies of En Vogue have also said, and I think maybe Max said that they forewarned them, hey, your attorneys or your manager is our manager. You sure you want to do that? One of the ladies basically said, Tommy and Denny said, that's going to be a conflict. You know, you sure you want to do that? You see, so it sounds like to me they were at least upfront. Sometimes you can still be upfront about it, but it's almost kind of like it's understood that, hey, maybe this guy would still definitely be a good manager for you guys. And to think that Tommy and Denny, they're already successful producers in the business. So if you're young and you pretty much don't know what's going on, you would think that, well, he represents Tommy and Denny. They're our producers. They're great. So why can't they, you know, he represent us as well? But that is now is a conflict of interest, right? So you have what you have here. You have a recipe for disaster. I still say that when it comes to this En Vogue situation, that if the guys would have looked at the fact of what Dawn was saying. Hey, we winning here. Let's continue to win together. Let's renegotiate everything. If in fact they had did that, then I think that we would have gotten a different kind of outcome when it came to En Vogue, because it seemed like to me, Dawn was just basically saying, show me the money. It sounds like what it was pretty much being said. And maybe all the other ladies was like, well, maybe we shouldn't just really touch it like this. But, it is what it is. So at this moment in time, what ends up happening is that Dawn leaves the group. And Dawn has basically talked about a whole lot of things that happened after she left the group, meaning, other projects. Dawn definitely had, excuse me, I'm sorry, you guys. It's definitely late over here, but I apologize for the yawning like that. But the ladies of En Vogue definitely have talked about the I drew a blank. I'm sorry, I'm looking at something. So Dawn leaves. If I'm not mistaken, at this moment in time, Dawn doesn't necessarily pop on the scene after that. I don't think so. I can't recall her doing that. I think she pretty much gets married. Does Dawn get married? There's a guy by the name of Dre Allen. Now, Dre Allen was also a member of a particular group, but I can't remember. What's the name of that group that? It's a male group. For example. I'm about to say, I knew it was For Example. So Dre Allen was a member of a band, I believe was called For Example. All right, which is interesting because En Vogue was about to be called For You. Is it For Example? I think it's called For Example. I think that's the name of the group. And I think they probably had some success or what have you. And so I'm not quite sure when they get together, but they definitely do get together for the most part. And then what we see from Dawn is that Dawn shows up on Firmbiz. I think that's where she shows up again. Somewhere after she leaves, I think she goes over to Dr. Dre, right? And they have Firmbiz. And when you see her come out with Firmbiz, you go, whoa. And for whatever reason, when it comes to Dr. Dre, that album was not as successful as all the others. I think someone has mentioned that album went maybe gold, but when it comes to that song and compared to all the other songs, it's kind of like, okay, but it really definitely wasn't a hit the way that it should have been a hit. And so therefore we didn't get much out of The Firm, right? Because the name of the group is called The Firm. So we didn't get a lot out of that. And Dawn Robinson decides to, terminate her contract with Dr. Dre. You can call it a hit or a miss with this one with Dr. Dre, and I'll tell you why. Because there are a lot of artists who was working with Dr. Dre at the time that didn't even see the light of day. There was some artists who did see the light of day, and they really and truly didn't go anywhere. The only thing that I have any issue with when it comes to Dawn and her relationship with Dr. Dre as far as working together, and Dawn basically has said, well, I'm not that kind of writer. I just can't go in the studio like everybody else and crank this stuff out, which, is probably true. But I would like to think that's when you gather up other artists. So I would say, where's the A&R person who's supposed to lead and guide at this moment in time? Even if Dr. Dre is so hands-on, at the end of the day, I think that someone should have at least, pull, other talented writers in to help her, guide her career. That's the only downfall that I see about all of this, as it relates to, again, her relationship with Dr. Dre. Now, after Dr. Dre, I think, again, we see Dawn Robinson, in the movie Life. I was still happy to see her, in that movie. I was like very excited seeing Dawn in Life, singing. When I first saw her immediately, I was like, oh my gosh, she's, in the movie. Now, I can't recall, and if she's not, it definitely is a shame, but I can't recall. For whatever reason, she does have a small part in the movie Life, but I'm not quite sure why she was not featured on the soundtrack. I think that would probably have been great for her career if she could have been a part of the soundtrack. Now, get this. Life is an Eddie Murphy movie. And you remember I mentioned people like Ed Gordon and Donnie Simpson and Arsenio Hall and all those people being taken back when it came to En Vogue. Eddie Murphy was also, someone who definitely admired these ladies as well. And so I would like to think just the fact that, having Dawn Robinson to be on, to be in his movie was definitely, just a favor, because it was a no-brainer, to have, someone from En Vogue, in the movie. And if you don't recall, I think the Ladies of En Vogue shows up on one of Eddie Murphy's songs in one of his albums. I think the song is called Yeah. So, the Ladies of En Vogue was definitely admired by Eddie Murphy as well. Definitely getting late over here. So, that's the next time that we see Dawn Robinson. Now, there's another time that Dawn Robinson also shows up after that, and I think she shows up with Lucy Pearl. So we go from Life to Lucy Pearl. Is that correct? I think so. And you see her again, and it's almost like after seeing her on the Firm Biz, to be quite honest with you, I never thought she was a part of the Firm. But to see her there, to see her in Life, and then to see her now with Lucy Pearl, there's two things that is happening in my mind. I'm saying, what's going on? But at the same time, I'm proud, because these are definitely some great projects to be a part of, and it definitely shows that, again, that she has it. Is given the right producers, the right record company, right management, so on and so forth. It's great. But now that I'm thinking about it and hearing just a few of the many interviews Dawn has, given, now that I think about it, it sounds like to me Dawn was really and truly adamant with her management at the time, or whoever was, responsible for her career, is saying, no, I am going to do this. So at the same time, it's almost like, yeah, Dawn has all of these opportunities presented to her, but if it looks like, I'm not going to say something better comes along, but if it's something she definitely wants to do, it sounds like Dawn is like, I'm going to do it. I don't care. I don't care how you feel about it. I'm going to do this. This is a great opportunity for me. And I do recall hearing Dawn say she had a contract with RCA Records at the time that she was singing. Well, she was asked to join Lucy Pearl, but it was a one-off album deal. So it was more like, well, let me go ahead on in, do this real quick. It's a one-off album deal, and then I'll go back to doing what I was doing. And sometimes when you think about it, when other people around you who you have given the responsibility for your career, this is just me talking out loud, who's giving you, who's guiding your career, sometimes you have to stop and say that person is putting a whole lot of effort into making sure that these things are getting done. So I would like to think, this is just my mind talking, that if your manager has helped you secure an RCA record deal, or if you have assisted in creating getting an RCA record deal, and you still have your people in place, if someone says, well, let's focus on this and get this done and do what we need to do on this end, then, we'll be successful and we'll have other opportunities to do things like that. But sometimes, when you are someone who's definitely is speaking up for yourself and you know what you want and you go for it, sometimes, the things that you think would be a success for you are probably not as successful as you think that they should be. And now that I think about it, if Dawn has been adamant from day one about, things that needs to be in their favor, that should be in their favor, and she's adamant about it probably from day one or after Hold On is releasing the success of that single, then one can definitely say, well, Dawn, she's definitely, someone who's, now that she's free from In Vogue, she's free from Atlantic Records or Electric Records at the time. She's free from these particular producers. So she's free from all of this. Now she definitely can take her career in her own hands and call the shots. This definitely sounds like what she's doing, is calling the shots herself. And as a result, sometimes people will just back off you and just say, all right, then, and they probably won't put as much effort into things because in their mind, they'll be like, okay, I told you so. Or, well, you definitely have to create a team for yourself. If you are the person who's going to run the ship, then you need to create a team of people who can help you get there. And they understand that that's where the route you're taking and they get you there, versus someone you're asking to help and assist your career, and they're assisting your career, but it's to the point where they're doing it kind of like on their own, or not necessarily with you in mind. They're doing it, but don't necessarily have you in mind. If you understand what I'm going with that, it's more like, well, this is what we have. This is what it is. Take it or leave it, And it's like, well, when you don't have any emotional ties to things, I guess that's what I'm saying. It's easy to do. And those who do have some emotional ties to it, whether if it's just sweat equity, whether if it's just picking up a phone and calling someone up who the average person couldn't get on the phone and call up and get their call through. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes, you need to not always be around the people who can definitely turn it on for you. You need to be around people who can hear your vision and turn it on for you that way. It's basically what I'm trying to go and say. And so what we have here with Dawn, it looks like to me, is someone who I think, to me, is okay probably where she is with her career. And the only regret is that, well, I have not been treated fairly in this, and I have not been compensated properly for this. It sounds like to me what I'm getting out of this In Vogue story as it relates to Dawn is that I did not get the lion's share of the money, and I didn't get the respect. And I'm okay with that if I didn't get it. And I've heard her say in interviews that I don't mind signing my rights over. I was broke when, they, we was making all the money. So I don't need it. I can sign away my rights to the name In Vogue. It does not matter to me or bother me at all, if you understand what I'm saying. So I think she's pretty much basically comfortable where she is right now on that end. I think for me, when I think about Dawn's career and where it could have been, or Dawn's career and what could be right now, is that, sometimes some people don't know how to start over again. You know, it's more like, I'm not saying that they live off what was, but I think about all the other divas, and if they took that position of not having to start over again, like literally start over again and make their way through, then we wouldn't see those divas right now. You know, as I mentioned with the passing of Tina Turner, you know, she did tell, you can have all of that stuff. I don't want that stuff. At least that's what it was portrayed like in the movies. You can have all that stuff. I don't want it, but I want my name. I've worked too hard for it. But I remember being young and watching that movie, and when it came out at the time, and we were all sitting down in my house, my mom and everybody, and we was watching it, and we got to the court scene. And I remembered saying to my mom, and I'm young, you know, I'm in high school, but, you know, I love music, right? So I said, that was smart of her, Tina Turner. And I told him, I said, that was very smart of her. I was like, they don't understand what she did. And that is that you can have all of it. I don't want to be responsible for it. But I'm going to walk away with my name. I'm going to walk away with the name Tina Turner, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when I leave here, I'm going to continue to be Tina Turner out there to everybody else. Because you know what? I'm going to use that name to make money for myself. And I don't want to be tied to anything you have legally. I don't want to be responsible for that, because you took a lot of money and you have not made good on it. And I don't want them coming looking for me. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I remember trying to get my parents and everybody to understand that that's pretty much was definitely a smart move on her end. I can go out and create again. I can do that. I can make money. You know, I have more of a possibility of having a career being away from you and everything that's going on. I don't need anything else in my way. And I often think about that as it relates to, you know, Dawn Robinson. To me, I would close by simply saying where I see Dawn's career is that she just definitely needs the right management and the right team. And she definitely could be, you know, the R&B diva that she definitely can be. I said it before, I say it again, because I've seen the success that she has had outside of in Vogue. I definitely know that she is the diva, you know, of the group, that she's the one who could definitely go on to sell have multi-platinum albums. I can, because it's definitely there. It's definitely there. And, you know, I think she's okay with where she is, definitely. But she's definitely that diva that can go out and have, you know, that superstar career. And we could definitely, you know, be seeing a different Dawn Robinson. But anyway, I am definitely 55 minutes into this video, and this is where I am going to end it. And I am going to end by saying, over here, Peppielaview, you already know what I'm about to say if you've ever gotten to this part, and that is, I believe in you putting your behind where your heart desires to be. Oh, yes, I do. Put your behind where your heart desires to be, you know. And also, to remember, whenever I leave my mother's presence, she always says, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. And on that note, I want to say thank you so much. I hope you feel the love and support over here. I'm definitely feeling it. So thank you very much, you guys out there. And also, don't forget to love yourself while you're out there trying to get love from others. And also, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next video. And until then, you guys take care of yourselves out there. All right.